Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. A cliche, a verbal cliche, works with audiences that are ignorant because they cannot really put the cliche, the verbal cliche, into context. In order to be able to put it in a context, you have to understand the context. In order to understand the context, you have to know. That means you have to put an effort in knowing what the hell happened when the cliche was formed, or the cliche is based on some actions that you must know, some historical events that you must be aware of and understand them. You can't understand something if you don't know about it. So you have to learn about it in order to understand something. And then maybe you get to love it, if you know what I mean. So we have here Zelensky, and Zelensky is going to use some verbal cliches, I think, without going into details. And that's a problem, because when you speak in generalities, that's a weasel talk. Like I would say, let's do the right thing, let's work hard, help one another, love one another, love everything, do not cause any harm. What do you mean? It's so many details that you're missing. As a general rule, yeah, but there's too many details. What do you mean do the right thing? Maybe my doing the right thing is different than your doing your right thing, here and there with some nuances, don't you think? So I need more details. Or let's fight for the change. Wait, what kind of change and where exactly? What department? So we have this article from Ukrinform, and we have Zelensky using some, as I said, verbal cliches, I think, and he's not going to give us details. So the article is from Ukrinform, and here he is from the 1st of October 2023. Zelensky says, "Never again will Ukraine pay with its sovereignty for illusory promises of peace." Now, if you're familiar with history, you might understand the first two words, never again. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a hint. Second World War, maybe the aftermath of it. Never again, never again, never again. In connection with Zelensky's time, maybe you understand it. Now, let's move on. Ukraine has drawn conclusions from its history general, and will never again pay with the future of its generations and its will for illusory promises of peace. What exactly, where, what kind of historical events are you referring to? What exactly I want to understand? I can come with a few of them. What is he referring to? To those? Because those have nuances, and maybe people might disagree with your nuances or your conclusions of the same events. All right. So, like for instance, the Soviet Union thinks that they won the Second World War for all of us. So does the United States of America. So does Canada and many others. Great Britain. They all think they won the war. Without them, could not have been. The Soviets thought that they did it. Now tell the Americans that and see how they will react. So it's the same outcome, they agree with the outcome, but nuances, details, angles, and most of all, interests. So it says here that President Zelensky said this in his speech on the occasion of the Day of Defenders and Defendresses. Jesus Christ, what is that? And I'm quoting again, "Never again will Ukraine pay with the future of its children, its sovereignty, and its will for illusory promises of peace," end quote, he stressed. According to Zelensky, Ukraine has drawn historical conclusions, I'm waiting, and sees what should become the victory. Okay, and I'm quoting, "and we know how to bring it closer," end quote. Okay, Zelensky reminded that history, do the good thing, the right thing, general, has repeatedly put Ukrainian freedom-loving people before a tough choice: prison from the occupier or the fight for freedom on their own land. But it often happened that at the moment of such a choice, Ukraine lost its internal unity. Remember that one, internal unity. He's talking about that. Before it could win a decisive victory, and often left alone and tempted by compromises. And I'm quoting, "Nowadays, modern generations of Ukrainians, you and all those who are now defending our state and people, our freedom and independence, have the opportunity to accomplish more than we have managed before," end quote, he stressed. Well, the head of state noted that now the defense of Ukraine against the Russian invasion is based on the historically greatest unity of the Ukrainian society, and Ukraine enjoys the world's historically greatest support. Well, he's talking about fighting and being independent. That's something idiotic, because you know that Ukraine is not fighting for its own independence. Ukraine chooses between two spheres of influence. It seems like it can't agree to be independent and sovereign. It needs a master. That's how it seems to me. So he talks about fighting, in this case, the Russians. But they're going to jump on the other plantation, which is the plantation of Al Capone. So they will be, again, slaves on someone else's plantation. They can't be in between. That's what Putin told them. You got to be in between. You can't be with NATO, and you can't, we don't want to get your territory. That's what he said. Now, what you say, it's one thing. What you do, it's a different one. Now, let's see what this guy is referring to historically. Well, Ukraine as a entity with territory, with borders, demarcations, first came into being, as far as you can check history, in 1918, after the First World War. It was created as a entity, a country, of Ukrainians, with Ukrainians. But Mr. Trotsky, I think it was Bernstein, a Jew, like Zelensky, he formed the Red Army. He made it. And then these guys invaded a little bit here and there Ukraine and took it into the Soviet Union. So that was the first time when these guys, and it was internal fighting, because these guys didn't just invade. It was internal communist and internal stupidity that got them under those, the Soviet, the communist, imbecility. Then next one was obviously after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, 1991, and then in 1993, I think it was 1994, the Budapest Memorandum, where it was Great Britain, I think it was United States, then Russia. They agreed to, Ukraine give up your nuclear weapons. They would have been taken away anyway, because it was an agreement between the Russians and the Americans. The whole shit. Yeah, we won the Cold War. Yes, you did. Yeah. It was an understanding. Okay, so it was an understanding. You're gonna get rid of them, the nuclear weapons, told the Ukrainians, and we were gonna guarantee that we will guarantee your sovereignty and independence. That is, if you stay as you are, we have no problem with you. That was the deal. But things changed. And when things change, the initial deal, no more valid. Correct? Correct. It's like you or me and a neighbor. And I say, neighbor, I will never fight you. I will never beat you up. Okay? We're friends. We're in good shape. I will never beat you up. Okay. And then he, molests my children or beats my children. What do you think I will do? Do you think what I promised him there is still going to be valid? No. Categorically not. I will go and I will tell him, and if he is going to have a belligerent attitude, I will kick him up. Okay? So kind of like this is right now. That was the first one. The second one, the first one was in 1918. The second one was in, as I said, 1994. I think it was in Budapest, put it at Budapest Memorandum. The third one was the 2014. The illegal overthrow of a legitimate government by some people with the help of the free countries. Again, they destroyed it. And then they took over. People died, remember? People died. And it was a coup. Illegal. And they overthrew a legitimate, democratically elected government, Viktor Yanukovych. Now, what is he talking about? And then they were elected. Then what happened? people, they call them Russian-speaking population in East Ukraine, in Donbass, and in Crimea, said, you know what? We don't really recognize these guys who overthrew a legitimate government. Why would they? What did the guys in Kiev do? Send tanks, military army, to do what? To have them come back. So that's how the whole thing started over there. Now, in 2014 and 2015, there were some Minsk agreements. Remember the Minsk agreements, accords, however you want to call them, signed by that government of Ukraine that was in charge. I would say illegitimate, because these guys took power through, how do you call it, usurpation? No? I can't be a king. I go and kill the king and I become the king. Let's say I'm a bastard. Remember the, okay? I can consider myself a king, and then I have my children, being the king after I die, and their children. But initially, I took power. I'm illegitimate since then, from that point. So these guys that conducted democratic elections after 2014 did it on the structure of an illegitimate point, 2014 coup. And then without or minus the population in the Donbass who did not vote. So again, you're not legitimate. Take it however you want. And the laws instituted against the Russian-speaking population, including the military trying to, and did a lot of killings over there in the process. What is this guy talking about? And now he says that he's not going to negotiate with his freedom. You're going to be this guy's servant, slave. You're not going to be independent. Let's say the Russians lose. Do you think that Ukraine will be independent? It's going to be as independent as Romania maybe, or Bulgaria, or I don't know, Germany. Now, those are not independent countries. Those are not sovereign countries. They appear to be, but when they do everything Al Capone wants, because Al Capone will come for us, ask for a favor, you're not independent. You owe something. They owe you. And they own you, to speak English a little bit. Now, here it is, my friends, with this guy. I don't know exactly what past events he's talking about. If he talks about the Minsk agreements, he still has to implement them. He was the one who broke them. He, when he was running to be elected as a president, he said he's going to bring peace. Well, I can say I want to bring peace, and all my actions will irritate the shit of you until you come and punch me in the face. And I say, now I have to defend myself, because you see, I want peace, but you punch me in the face. I didn't provoke you. But if you ask the other person say, what do you mean you didn't provoke me? You did this, you did this, you did this, and you did that. You see, but here is, again, cliche, verbal cliche, unprovoked invasion. Illegal, how do you call it, seizure of territories. Even though we're referenda over there. Maybe the Russians have a reason why. They told you the reason many times. These are cliches, but if you don't know the context, oh, it was an illegal invasion, oh, the aggressors, oh, the criminal, oh, the, unprovoked, all this, oh, the sham elections, the sham referenda. These are cliches, because you don't sit down and say, okay, let's talk. Let's see, how was it a sham? What's your evidence? Put it right here. Hard evidence, not someone said something. Tell me the evidence. They are as sham as the American elections. Let's put it this way. Which are not, right? Anyway, my friends, here it is. Never again will let others dictate their freedom and independence. And remember, if they lose, they're going to be under Russia's boot or thumb. If they win, if the Americans win, they're going to be under these guys' thumb. They will not be independent. They should have picked the Minsk agreements. That would have been the best under those circumstances. Or better than that, we should have been 2013, let's say March or August, before Victoria Nuland was sent into action, and so on. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.